Now I have to apologize to you guys out there. One of the things that bothers me sometimes is that, you know, you come on a channel like mine or other channels and we talk about mature buck management, mature buck hunting, mature buck tactics, mature bucks as they relate to trail cameras. It's bucks, 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 bucks all the time. And I have to apologize for that. But at the same time, the reason I focus on bucks so much, and obviously they're not the only piece of the deer herd, they're not the only piece of the puzzle. I focus on mature bucks because they truly are the lowest hole in the bucket of deer management. If your property is not being managed for the way you should hunt a mature buck, the way you should hold a mature buck, the way you should attract a mature buck, then everything else does not fall into place. That truly is the lowest hole in the bucket. You have to plug that first, and that's why applying a large degree and experience of mature buck hunting and hunting management, mature buck hunting management, is why I got into this in the first place. Is that, for one, there's not a lot out there that do that, but two, I come from the hunting side of things. So I want to bring that high-level hunting, advanced hunting for bucks, mature bucks, older bucks, and apply it to the lands that I not only manage, but the lands that I hunt myself. So for that, there's a lot of talk about bucks, and I know you might get sick of that. You might think that it's disingenuous or that it's a bad focus. What I find is if you are managing for mature bucks, meaning you're managing your hunting pressure, you're managing the daylight movement of those bucks, which is very short window, you're managing the hunting and the cover security on your pressure so that, or on your land, so that that hunting pressure is managed, so where deer actually feel welcome on your land. You're managing that depth of cover so that mature bucks are there on your land. Then a great sign, and I want you to think about this, a great sign that your property is doing well is that your does and your doe family groups are very easy to target if you want to raise or lower your deer numbers. I hear often, you know, that 7-year-old doe, she's extremely hard. We tried for 3 years to shoot her. Well, if you tried for 3 years to shoot a particular mature doe on a property, or hunters did, then that tells me that the movements are random on that property, that there's too much hunting pressure being applied, and if it's hard to shoot a mature doe on the land, then we can't even think about mature bucks yet. That's a very high hole in the bucket. Mature does, doe family groups offer very extremely, I'll change that to extremely, dependable movements on a daily basis. They go from bedding to food, back and forth. They go somewhere at night, doesn't really matter where, but their daylight movements are incredibly predictable on properties that are managed for mature buck hunting. If you're attracting mature bucks and you're attracting the focus of mature bucks every single day, you can expect those does, fawns, young bucks to follow in line. There's a lot of properties out there. In fact, I run into them all the time. I'm on about 70 lands a year across the country, and I go on properties that have been managed to the hilt. The habitat's been managed greatly. Great food sources, great cover options, incredible native grass planting, switchgrass plantings, water holes, whatever it might be. It's an incredibly attractive land. The more attractive you make that land, the more you have to manage the level of attraction. If you don't manage that level of attraction, you end up with a bunch of does and fawns on your property living year-round, a few small bucks, and you create a property that is nocturnal typically for mature bucks except for during the rut. That's the one time where a buck might come through. Maybe he comes for a late season food source. Very easy to do that. Just find a chunk of land, improve all the habitat as much as you can, and then throw out a bunch of stands and hunt it. If you don't manage your hunting pressure as much as you're managing your habitat, then you're not going to have that mature buck focus on your land every day, and you're not going to be plugging that lowest hole in the bucket. So on one hand, I do apologize for talking about mature bucks so often, and I apologize because I don't clarify sometimes that is the lowest hole in the bucket. You can't manage a parcel if you don't bring that mature buck experience, that mature buck hunting experience, that mature buck scouting experience and herd building experience into that equation. And I don't explain that enough, but try managing for really focusing your land, how your habitat connects, making sure that buck has a secure area on your property. And you'll be surprised when you manage that lowest hole in the bucket for mature bucks, how everything else falls in place, including easy doe harvest and being able to raise or lower your deer numbers when needed, let alone having a great mature buck hunt this fall.